What's going on, league? It's week 14. It's that time. It's playoff time. But before we get to playoffs, we got to finish up this last week of the regular season. Some big games. I don't want to waste any time. Of course, I do want to let y'all know that I'm in my new studio, Fantasy Football headquarters. Yes, it is a classroom, but for right now and for these videos' sake, it is where we only talk about fantasy and fantasy football things. So without further ado, let's get to the game of the week. There were a bunch of different choices we could have went with. I went with this one because of the playoff implication that it has, because not only does it impact what happens with these two teams, it also impacts a couple of other games, which we'll get to that. But it's not necessarily a win and get in situation. Dark Knight has solidified that, not Dark Knight, Bulldogs has solidified that number 3 seed. So as you remember the other day, we put an asterisk by him, he's locked in. But Dark Knight, if he wins, he's in a win and get in kind of situation. He will need a little bit of help from a couple other teams to make that happen. But the biggest thing right now is that he's sitting at, if he wins, he gets in. He's got a good shot. Patrick Mahomes has been on a tear. If you look at Dark Knight's team as a whole, he's been on a tear. He's been scoring well over 200 points every week. It's not just matchup based. His team has just been putting up big points. And right now, Devontae Adams is starting off kind of slow. I think if he ends up this night north of 20 points, I think he's in a good spot going into Sunday. Brady had been sold on. Other than those last 3 minutes and playing against the Saints who just let that game go the other night, Brady didn't have a good game, and he didn't have a good game before that. And so I'm not sold on what Brady could give him this week, but if Brady does well, then that's just going to boost up Chris Godwin, which Dark Knight has. So I think y'all know where I'm leaning. Dark Knight's only weak spot might be his tight end. I forget who he has in that spot, but either way, I'm taking Dark Knight to go 8-6, and both these teams will be 8-6. Either way, it really puts Dark Knight in a position to make a claim to a playoff spot. And so with that said, I'm going to jump over to STL and Baker King for the next game. STL and Baker King both sitting at 8-5. STL is in the 6th seed now because Baker King leapfrogged him after STL took a loss last week. Baker King is pretty much in the driver's seat in the playoff spot, even if he loses both of these teams. Even if he loses, he's pretty much in the playoffs just because of how some tiebreakers come down to him and Dark Knight. But if STL loses, STL at an 8-16 could end up out of the playoffs if Dark Knight is 8-6. So the way these two teams are set up, though, you got Baker King, who's getting a chance to put his full roster out. His normal team that he's always been winning with, he's always been scoring roughly about 210 points a game. And he thinks he's the smartest fantasy team right now with his picks and everything like that, too. So, but Baker King's on a run. Baker King's my favorite owner. He's going to get owner of the year. He may not win a championship, but he'll get owner of the year. STL is dealing with some injuries right now, and he's having to plug and play some other players. Kenneth Walker doesn't look like he's ready. With all that going on, it's tough to pick against Baker King, so I'm going to take him to get the win, and then that just puts this spot right here, put a big question mark. That's a question mark if y'all don't know. Anyway, let's go back over to Rocky B and Infantry Warrior. You have a divisional game again with them, but the players that are involved in those games are a divisional game. It is really that Bengals versus Browns game. Rocky B's got the Bengals players with Higgins and Burrow. He's also got Nick Chubb on the Browns. And then Warrior has Joe Mixon from the Bengals. And so all those players want to time with one another. The thing I'm worried about on this side is Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks is looking like he probably won't play. He had that nasty hit on Sunday and didn't finish the game. That's what caused Infantry Warrior to take a loss. So I'm really leaning towards Rocky B to get that win, keep rolling. Rocky B has just been such a consistent team. His team is rock solid from top to bottom. His defense is strong. We know his offensive players. So Rocky B should get that win. If Mixon is 100% and Treylon Burks somehow plays, he could make a tighter game in that, but I think Rocky B's got it. Next one, we got Laugh Now versus GOAT. GOAT's got a bunch of injuries going on, and he's also got bye weeks with a few of his players. Laugh Now, I think the only bye week that he's dealing with right now is can't even think about it. He's dealing with, I believe, Kamara's out, and I also believe Chris Olave. Outside of that, he's got a bunch of other players that he can lean on. He could go up. He could go to war with. So it's going to be a tough matchup. But I'm believing that Laugh Now will be able to take that win. GOAT's going to have too many players, and I don't think he's going to want to drop Aaron Rodgers or Trevor Lawrence, who Trevor Lawrence hasn't been practicing this week yet either. Power T versus AGM for life. AGM for life came to life with these last couple of weeks after starting the season 0-10 or 0-11. He's now had 2 victories and a big upset win to kind of throw some things in disarray for the playoff picture. I think all that magic ends though. He's had his Cinderella part of the season. He's played spoilers for a couple of teams, but I believe Power T has what it takes to come back on top and get AGM back to get him back to where he was. Well, not back to where he was, but just he won't get that win this week. So Power T takes down AGM for life. Next up, we got Fire Dogs versus the Show. Both of these teams are 5-8. They don't have a shot at the playoffs, so this is really just playing for dignity and getting a 6th win. But I think the Show has a better team. Fire Dogs has just not had that firepower all season. Derek Carr's doing all right now, but it's those other guys. You never know what you're going to get with Damian Pierce. A.J. Brown will probably have a big game, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough to take down Show. Show's had, especially when his quarterback, Josh Allen and Diggs and company and all those guys are going off. So I'm taking Show. I think he's still one of the top 5 or 6 scoring teams in the league. Fire Dogs is on the bottom side of that. Here's another game. This right here was another option. I was looking at game of the week because King of the Gridiron versus Swagner. Swagner, of course, is right here. We know we had a question mark by him on the other night. King of the Gridiron is sitting in a great spot. And King of the Gridiron, he started the season off okay. He had a bunch of injuries. And I think if he didn't have those injuries, we'd really be talking about him in that spot instead of Swagner. Although Swagner has had something to say about it because his first half of the season was very strong. Injuries, especially when Cooper Kupp went down. He's had Kyler Murray miss a game, so injuries have plagued him as well. But these 2 teams have a lot of similarities. The difference is he's trending in the right direction. He's trending in the wrong direction. I'm taking King of the Gridiron to get that win, and that's going to throw all of this off. We'll get to how that playoff matchups work. I'll see how the maths the other after these games on Sunday or Monday of next week, but too much to try to break down right now. I'll finish doing that later. So finally, we got Huckleberry versus Wolf. Huckleberry got him a win last week. He lucked up, didn't start the right quarterback, but had just enough going and enough injuries on the other side to get a victory. He's got a shot. There's a bunch of things that have to happen. Warrior losing is one of them. And so if Warrior loses, he gets a win. There's a good shot that he might have a chance of getting into that 8th seed. It's going to come down to a bunch of tiebreakers and points. Wolf, of course, he's dealing with Lamar being out now. He's having to go to Tyler Huntley, so we'll see. But those guys are ready. They've been practicing. But, you know, due to my affiliation with the Wolf organization, I can't make a pick in this game. So good luck, Wolf. I know you'll be playing hard and rooting for you, Wolf. So outside of that, you got the matchups. You got Dark Knight beating Bulldogs, Rocky B beating Warrior, Laugh Now beating GOAT, Power T taking out AGM for life, Baker King over STL 4-time champ, the Show beating Fire Dogs, and then King of the Gridiron beating Swagner. Those are the matchups. Look forward to see all this come to fruition. The best picks, the most accurate picks you'll ever see. So outside of that, y'all have a good week and enjoy your games. Later.